So in this class we will see the spleen and the celiac trunk. First we will see the spleen, then the celiac trunk. So all the abdominal organs may be asked as the essay in the exam. So we will now start with the spleen. It is a very simple topic. So that first we will start with the spleen, then we will continue with the celiac trunk. Why we should know the celiac trunk before we start with the stomach classes? The celiac trunk is going to supply all the foregut derivatives. So with the arteries of the celiac trunk, we will understand easily the blood supply of the stomach, which is the next class. Spleen, which belongs to the reticuloendothelial system, it is situated mainly in the left hypochondrium and partly in the epigastric region. So for every organ in the abdomen, you should start with the situation in relation to the 9 quadrants in the abdomen. So that's the first important point. So here this is situated in mainly in the left hypochondrium. If you see the axis of the spleen, it is oblique, so that downwards, forwards, laterally, as if coinciding with the 10th rib on the left side. So that is the axis of the spleen. Size and shape of the spleen, it's like flattened oblong shape. Length is 12 centimeter, breadth is 7 centimeter, thickness is 3 centimeter, and weight is 150 gram approximately. Presenting parts of the spleen, it presents two ends, medial and lateral, two surfaces, diaphragmatic and visceral, two borders, superior and inferior, two angles, anterior and posterior basal angles. So these are the presenting parts of the spleen. So ends first we will see. It has one medial end and lateral end. So this is the medial end of the spleen. So spleen you can see on the left side, medial end. It is blunt and it is rounded upwards and backwards towards the vertebral column. Exactly opposite the 10th thoracic vertebra, 10th thoracic spine, about 3.5 to 4 centimeter to the left of the mid dorsal line. So this is medial end is also called posterior end because it is mainly pointing posteriorly, and this is the end close to the midline, only 3.5 to 4 centimeter to the midline. Lateral end you can see in the lowermost part of the image, that is the lateral end. It is the end or as if represented by a border which extends between the superior border and the inferior border. This lateral end is related with the left colic flexure in front and phrenicocolic ligament behind. So this lateral end is related to two structures, two surfaces. So you can see two different surfaces in the two images, which is smooth is the and convex is the diaphragmatic surface, and which presents some impressions and depressions. They are the it is the visceral surface. Diaphragmatic surface. So every abdominal organ relate near the diaphragm will be having the diaphragmatic surface, and the thoracic organs also in the lowermost surface will be related to the diaphragm. So here this diaphragmatic surface is smooth and convex related with the diaphragm. It is not only related with the diaphragm, it is related to the lower border of the above the spleen. What is that lung? Is left lung, lower border of the left lung, and even to the left pleural sac. And if you see outer to this, then you will have the ribs. So outer to inner, we are telling the relations of the diaphragmatic surface. Diaphragm, lung and pleura, then 9th, 10th, 11th ribs and their intercostal spaces. So if you see in this picture, spleen is related to the lower border of the first related to the diaphragm, then related to the lower border of left lung and left pleural sac in the upper one third, and costodiaphragmatic recess of left pleural sac in the lower two thirds. Outside that, 9th, 10th, 11th ribs on the left sides and their intercostal spaces. It presents 4 impressions, visceral surface. You can see in that marked as stomach area in the image, that is the gastric impression. Then renal area, renal impression, colic impression, and near the hilum will be the pancreatic impression. So gastric impression will be really near the superior border. So that is near and upper part of the visceral surface. It will be related to which part of the stomach is the fundus of the stomach. In this impression in the lower part, you will see the hilum of the spleen. Then what is renal impression and where it is? It is below and behind. So it is below is the renal impression, separated by the intermediate. Between these two impressions is the intermediate border. You see between the gastric impression and renal impression, what you are seeing is the intermediate border. Hilum of the spleen is present in the gastric impression. This renal impression is related to the upper and lateral part of the anterior surface of the left kidney. Colic impression, it is near the lateral end. It is related with the left colic flexure. What is left colic flexure? It is the junction of sigmoid colon. It is the junction of transverse colon and the descending colon. What is pancreatic impression? Is between the colic area and the lateral end of the hilum. So near the hilum, that is the pancreatic impression. So 4 impressions on the visceral surface. Borders of the spleen, we have superior border, inferior border, and one more, just now we saw the intermediate border in the visceral surface. What is the superior border? How can you identify? It will be thin and convex, and it will have 1 or 2 notches that represents that is the superior border. These notches indicate, you can see in the image, the upper border near the stomach area, that is the superior border. You can see a few notches in that. So that notches indicate that the spleen is lobulated in development. So what is this border separates gastric impression from the diaphragmatic surface. Then you see the inferior border now. It separates renal impression from the diaphragmatic surface. So angles of the spleen. What is this angles of the spleen is? Now you try to see in the image lateral end only. Lateral end or lateral border we told. That's the lowermost part in the image. So now you see the junction of the superior border and lateral end. So junction of superior border and lateral end will be called as, that will be the most forward projecting part of the spleen. It will be lying in the 9th intercostal space at or slightly behind the left mid-axillary line. What is its importance is, when the spleen is enlarged and becomes palpable under the left costal margin, first what is palpated is the anterior basal angle. Hence this is known as the clinical angle of the spleen. When the spleen is just palpable, when your clinician says that spleen is just palpable under left costal margin, it indicates that the spleen is enlarged at 2 to 3 times from its normal size. So that is the junction of superior border and the lateral. In the image, it is a old image of the Gray's Anatomy old book. In this image, it is given as anterior border, that is the superior border. So in the posterior border, which is given as posterior border, is the inferior border. So now what is the anterior basal angle is the junction of the superior border and the lateral end, which is called as the clinical angle of the spleen. Then what is posterior basal angle? Now you can easily tell. It is the junction of inferior border and the lateral end. That is called as the posterior basal angle. Ligaments of the spleen are gastrosplenic ligament, lieno-renal ligament, lieno-phrenic ligament sometimes. Phrenicocholic ligament indirectly supports the spleen from below, so it will be called as sustentaculum lenis, as if it is supporting the ligament spleen from below. Blood supply of the spleen. Artery which supply is the splenic artery, which is a branch of celiac trunk. Splenic veins drain into the portal vein. Applied anatomy of the spleen, splenomegaly, enlargement of the spleen, which is the common in many clinical conditions, especially in our country. Malaria is the commonest cause of the splenomegaly. Then rupture of the spleen may also be possible in the splenomegaly. Surgical removal of the spleen will be called as splenectomy. So this completes this topic. Spleen, which is the short essay, we have seen under the following headings: situation, axis, size and shape, presenting parts, two ends, medial end and lateral end, two surfaces, diaphragmatic and visceral surfaces, two borders, superior border and inferior border, two angles, anterior basal angle and posterior basal angle. So this completes this spleen topic. Now we will see the celiac trunk. That may be also be asked as short essay. Celiac trunk is the artery of the foregut. So all the foregut derivatives will be supplied by the celiac trunk. When you tell any artery as trunk, means it is a very short vessel, wide vessel, then it will be called as trunk. As if the branches will cover the artery will not be visible, it will be so short, then it will be called as trunk. Origin, it's the front of aorta below the aortic opening. So it will arise from the front of the aorta, just below the aortic opening, opposite the lower border of T12 vertebra. This arises from the aorta behind the omental bursa, otherwise behind the lesser sac. Between the tuberomental of pancreas and papillary process of liver will be the origin of celiac trunk. So origin we have seen. Branches of celiac trunk: left gastric artery, common hepatic artery and splenic artery. So this is how the celiac trunk arises from the front of the aorta. You can see in the image the aorta is visible in the just below the aortic opening as a large vessel. From that the celiac trunk arises and it passes behind the omental bursa. So that's why it is its origin is behind the omental bursa, and its branches will be three branches. Left gastric artery, it's a narrow vessel which you can see just related to the left border of the stomach is the left gastric artery. One artery which is running behind the stomach is the splenic artery, tortuous, and the other artery on the left side will be called as the common hepatic artery. So these are the three branches of the celiac trunk. Left gastric artery, just now we have recollected, it's the smallest branch, upwards and to the left towards the cardiac end of the stomach. So left gastric artery you see in this picture, it passes upwards and to the left to the cardiac end of the stomach, runs in the left border of the stomach so that to anastomose with the right gastric artery. It forms one fold in the lesser sac. Lesser sac class we told this left gastric artery forms one fold, that is the left gastropancreatic fold or the superior gastropancreatic fold. So now we will move on to the common hepatic artery. Common hepatic artery passes to the right along the upper border of the body and neck of the pancreas. It forms one fold. What is that fold? Inferior gastropancreatic fold or the right gastropancreatic fold. Reaches the right free margin of lesser omentum. So after forming this fold, it will reach the right free margin of lesser omentum. The contents of the right free margin of lesser omentum we have seen in the lesser omentum class. It gives branches right gastric and gastroduodenal. Then it will continue as the hepatic artery proper in the right free margin of lesser omentum. You see again the left branch common hepatic artery, you can see it passes to the right along the upper border of body and neck of pancreas. It gives two branches. Are you seeing the right gastric artery which is anastomosing with the left gastric artery? Then one artery which passes behind the first part of the duodenum, that is the gastroduodenal artery. After giving these two branches, it forms that fold and enters the right free margin of lesser omentum. So gastroduodenal artery, are you seeing? Then the right gastric artery. After that it will be called as the hepatic artery proper. Close to the porta hepatis, it will divide into right and left hepatic arteries. The cystic artery will arise from the right hepatic artery. Branches of common hepatic artery, right gastric artery, we told already, anastomosis with the left gastric artery. So these two gastric arteries we will see again in the stomach class. Gastroduodenal artery. It runs downwards behind the first part of the duodenum. So it is a very important artery. In the ulcers of the stomach and first part of the duodenum, it may erode into this artery causing bleeding into the ulcer, that is the gastroduodenal artery. If it reaches the lower border of the first part of the duodenum, it gives rise to two branches, superior pancreaticoduodenal and right gastroepiploic arteries. So you can see in this gastroduodenal, now you try to see gastroduodenal artery which runs behind the first part of duodenum, then it will divide into superior pancreaticoduodenal and right gastroepiploic artery. Have you seen? After giving these two branches, common hepatic artery will be continuing as hepatic artery proper in the upper part. You can see the image. It divides into right and left hepatic arteries. Then cystic artery will arise from the left hepatic artery. Splenic artery, it's the largest branch of the celiac trunk, tortuous, and it passes to the left to the behind the omental bursa. It's the artery which runs along the upper border of body and tail of pancreas. In the relation of the body of pancreas, the artery which runs along the upper border is this splenic artery. Then it enters the lienorenal ligament, gives rise to 5 to more segmental branches to the spleen. Before that, it gives also the branches, pancreatic branches to the body of the spleen, short gastric arteries to the stomach, and left gastroepiploic arteries. So, these gastroepiploic arteries, left and right, will run along the right border of the stomach. Sorry, left border of the stomach. Otherwise, greater curvature of the stomach. Right and left gastric artery will run along the lesser curvature of the stomach. Gastroepiploic arteries will run along the greater curvature of the stomach. So the splenic artery you can see in this, which is tortuous, which runs along the upper border of the body of the pancreas. Also you can see in this superior pancreaticoduodenal, which is the branch of the gastroduodenal artery. So this completes the celiac trunk topic, which is arising opposite to the T12 vertebra from the front of the aorta, gives rise to 3 branches: left gastric artery, common hepatic artery, and the splenic artery. So all these arteries gives very many branches to supply the stomach, pancreas, duodenum, a part of the pancreas, and also the liver and the spleen. Even though spleen is not a foregut derivative, it is supplied by the celiac trunk branches. So this completes this celiac trunk topic also. You try to read this arteries before we start with the stomach class.